Welcome back, everybody. Couple days ago, I recorded, and now I am recording again. So welcome back to those who are returning. I noticed that my James book night video kind of blew up more than it usually does. I've been getting pretty low views because I haven't been consistent. But I thought I'd make a video on another Hornets rookie, a guy that coming out of college was this really dynamic player. Was it a threat from deep? I'll go into his percentages in college and how he's playing in the G League and how he could possibly help our team. Um, but yeah, if you like these videos, subscribe, like all that jazz. And today we're talking about Kai Jones. A lot of NBA fans don't know who Kai Jones is, and I don't blame them. If you're not a Hornets super fan like I am, you're wondering who is this guy. If you guys didn't watch the draft, he went, I think at the teens. I don't have it in front of me, but he went in the first round, and 7'1" center, shot 38% from three in college, and that's what really brought a twinkle to my eye, I guess, because every Hornets center we've had does not know how to shoot from deep. Cody Zeller, Bismack Biyombo, Mason Plumlee, who we have right now. If we go back, Al Jefferson wasn't great at it. But all the centers we've had through the years haven't been great at shooting three. So that's, when we drafted him in the teens, and I think we traded up and got him from the Knicks. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's a center. He can stretch the floor on occasion. He's not great at rebounding, but we have a rebounding center in LaMelo Ball. We have PJ Washington to hold it up at the four." My understanding was he would make an instant impact and he would play a lot of minutes on our team, and that just hasn't been the case. Obviously, we did that trade on draft night for Mason Plumlee. PJ Washington sometimes slides over to the five some nights. Sometimes we have Miles Bridges and PJ Washington holding the 4 and 5 down. Whatever it is. Also Nick Richards, which I'll get into, our center options, as there is really three options other than Mason Plumlee. I thought that there would be a spot for Kai Jones, especially because of how dynamic he was. I saw his dunking ability even before he played in these G League games, which I'll show you kind of what I saw from it. I watched some of his highlights. I watched some of his misses. But if I want to get into that, I thought he would be the other lob threat. Mason Plumlee isn't really a lob threat, although he's caught a few lobs this season. I thought it would just be another dynamic player next to LaMelo Ball, other than Miles Bridges, to catch those lobs. But when I watched him in the G League, because we have done a lot of rotation in the G League, bringing guys up, I think Vernon Carey we brought down and up twice. We have kept some guys down in the G League and not brought them up since the start of the season, like Scotty Lewis, Jello Ball. But some of these guys like Kai Jones, like James Bouknight, like Vernon Carey Jr., are kind of in-betweeners where we don't really know what to do with them. It's either they play a bunch of minutes and put up really good production in the G League and help us win games in the G League, which doesn't really matter, or they just ride the bench on the sideline and hope they get in for the last 2 minutes of the game if we're blowing someone out or if someone's blowing us out. But when I watched him in the G League, which is really interesting, I like the G League. It shows a bunch of players, former veterans, guys who are trying to prove themselves. It shows a lot out there. But from what I took away from Kai Jones is his blocking ability, which is kind of insane. He had two massive blocks that I saw in the game where he was just protecting that paint. Defender drove on him. He asserted his dominance. And that's something we probably need is, the defensive presence, because Mason Plumlee is not the best defender. He's not the best at it. He's kind of like Cody Zeller. He's just average at everything. So I saw the defensive potential in Kai Jones. Multiple dunks. I saw him run coast to coast, grabbed the rebound, and then just blew past everybody for a dunk. I hit a fadeaway shot mid-range like Dirk. And the thing that stuck out to me the most, I should have known this. I should have watched more film on him in college when we drafted him. Because he shot 38% from three his last season in college, this man can shoot. He hit a step back three. It was like dribbled between his legs, was about to drive to the basket. Defender, shifted with him towards the rim, and he just stepped back for three, and he switched it. And if he can start doing that on a consistent basis in the G League, and I do want to stress this a lot because we are talking about the G League here. Not everybody is on an NBA level. It's very hard for most G Leaguers to find that NBA roster spot. There's only 15, and most NBA rosters have 13 guys and then two-way players. So it's very hard for Kai Jones, especially on a young team, to find his spot on an NBA roster. But if he can consistently show this ability, I think it's insane, because I think it'll show to the coaches, to James Borrego, our assistant coaches, the city of Charlotte even, that we have another center that's in the G League that can possibly make an impact on our team. And it'll be really interesting, playing out this year and into next year, which center decides to step up, because we have, as I said earlier in this video, we have three young centers that if one steps up, we'll probably give them minutes to, because we need somebody off the bench to give those minutes to. And lately, in the first 13 games this season, it's been Nick Richards, and he's been putting up good production. But it's between Nick Richards, Vernon Carey Jr., and obviously Kai Jones, which is the main topic of this video. Which one of those three can really step up over the other two? And lately, it's been Nick Richards. I mean, the coaches, the biggest thing you can see here is that he's been given the minutes. He's been given the time on the floor to show his potential. That is, Nick Richards. And he's been showing some good, rebounding ability, shooting ability. But can that be overcome by Kai Jones is really the question. Can that be overcome by Vernon Carey Jr.? I don't think so at this point, although he put up insane stats in the G League last year. I think him and Nick Richards averaged like 5 blocks as a pair, which is just insane, especially for the G League. But my thought is that, Nick Richards doesn't have the 3-game in his bag. I have not seen him attempt a 3 in college or in the NBA, but we know that Kai Jones has that. And if he can stretch the floor for LaMelo to, drive and kick, which he loves to do, you don't have Mason Plumlee clogging the floor because he's so limited. He can't go outside the paint. And you just have another threat outside there. And I think that's really the most intriguing part of Kai Jones, is his versatility on the defensive end with those massive blocks that I saw with the step-back threes, where we could use a guy like that. And we saw that a little bit with Jalen McDaniels, where he can be that guy, the 3-and-D guy, where he's just 6'11" and kind of this unicorn out there for us, which a lot of guys in the league are, starting with, Dirk, and then, Kevin Durant. But obviously they're not at, or Jalen McDaniels is not at their level, obviously. But if we can get a center, because Jalen McDaniels isn't going to guard a 5, he's going to guard maybe a 3 or 4, because he sees himself as a wing as well, even being 6'11". If we can get a 5 to hold it down in the paint, because the intrigue of Mason Plumlee is his defense, is his wide body, is his powerful paint presence, and his paint moves, especially. If we can get Kai Jones to kind of buy in, to bulk up his body, to develop some post moves at 7-1, and most importantly, guard the big centers in the league, because going through the East, you got Giannis, you got Joel Embiid, you have Vucevic, although he's out with COVID. Who am I missing? You got the Orlando centers in Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter, which I might make a separate video on, because it is intriguing. Like they can probably only keep one. Mo Bamba's been leading, or is second in the league in blocks per game. And Wendell Carter obviously has his good stuff, but it'll be interesting what Orlando does with their 2 centers, and maybe we can snag one of those centers. Obviously last season, if you guys have been watching my videos for a while, I suggested a sign and trade with Malik Monk and Mo Bamba. I thought that was a good trade-off. Orlando needed some more shooting. This was probably before they got, R.J. Hampton in that trade for Aaron Gordon and Gary Harris. They have a lot of wings now. They have a lot of point guards. But before that, I suggested that, they needed a scorer other than Terrence Ross and Cole Anthony. And this was before Cole Anthony is putting up 29 points, it seems like, every night. But that's a trade I suggested. Obviously, that didn't happen. Malik Monk's kind of ring chasing as a young player, which is, a standalone video on its own. But you guys know what I'm saying. We have 3 options other than Mason Plumlee, which Mason Plumlee is super limited. Vernon Carey has shown his 3-point progression in the G League. Nick Richards, I already stated he hasn't, and Kai Jones, maybe he can. Those are our three options if we don't trade, if we don't get Miles Turner in free agency. So that's the video, guys. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't, carry on with your day. I'll see you guys later.